Welcome back. In this video we're going to be looking at the basic creation, file management, importing, outputting of Google Slides in a number of formats, and the settings that go into a Google Slide presentation. So all of those things are contained under the File menu, and let's start with the basics. You have an option for creating a new presentation. As a matter of fact, from this menu you can create any form of new Google Doc. You have an open option. If you click that, it will take you to your drive where you'll see presentations, both slides presentations and PowerPoint presentations that you could open. You can also use options such as shared with me to find any presentations that are not in your space but have been shared with you, any that you may have starred, recently used, and you have the option to upload as well. You can rename the slide presentation from here. However, as we know, simply clicking in the box will do the same thing. You can make a copy. This will simply create a duplicate of this presentation in its current form, so allow you to make a second version if you need to do that. And you can use this button to navigate through your drive and store it in the location that you want to store it in to begin with. So if I wanted to put it in this particular folder, I could go there. I could even use this button to create a new folder in that space. Give that folder a name. I'm not going to want that later, so I'll just do that. And now I'm in this empty folder. I can select that. And if the original document was shared with anyone and I want to share it with the same people, I could click that box. Now I can always make changes to my sharing later. That's not a problem. But if I was working with a team on a particular project and we were maybe working on 2 versions or something similar, I could do that. The file would be created, and then I would simply come into here and rename it. So let me use the menus just to show you. Say it just selects it up in that bar, and from there I can rename it. I now have 2 copies. Back to my original copy. I can use this option to move something that's already been created. So if I click on this, it's simply going to open up my drive. And nothing fancy here. I can then just go about the process of finding what I want to move and moving it manually. Let me get rid of this from before since I don't need it. But if you want to do it directly from within the program, click the Move Here button. That will allow you to browse. So clicking on this isn't going to help. You're going to have to come over to this little arrow. So now I can navigate through my drive and move it into the location that I want. Again, I can create a new folder on the fly if I need to, but I'm not going to do that this time. There's also Move to Trash. So if you're in the presentation, this is one way to delete it. You of course can do that from the drive environment as well. And a very nice option within the program is to import slides either from other Google Docs or from a PowerPoint or another presentation. So if I click Import Slides, it's going to show me from my drive all the presentations. I could pick one to import. Or at this point I can upload directly a file. So there's a PowerPoint I'm going to upload. If I give it a second, it's going to show me my slides, and then I have to select which ones I want to import. Now I could just click all and I'll get everything that's in there, or I could click to select a slide, click again to deselect it. So for right now, let's take all and see what happens. There's an option down here to keep the original theme. And in a lot of cases you'll want to uncheck that because I've already got a theme going here. I've already got a design, and it's disconcerting to have that change. Younger students will often want to do that. They'll want every slide to look different. And it's really poor practice as it's distracting from the content and the message you're trying to present in your presentation. Okay, so I'll just say import slides. And you'll notice the slides have been imported. Now if I were to go back to my drive, you will see a copy of that presentation that I uploaded, but it's been uploaded, let me open it, as a Google slide presentation. So it didn't come up as a PowerPoint. It was converted when it was imported if I use that import slides feature. Let me delete those for a second. And I'm going to try a different method. I'm going to come to my drive and I'm going to upload that file directly. You can see by the P that the file was uploaded as a PowerPoint and not as a Google Slides presentation. If I were in my presentation at this point and I wanted to import them, and it's important actually where you're selected. If I'm selected here, that's where they're going to be imported. That's where those slides are going to come in. If I go to the end, they'll be tacked on the end. So I'll click in that position and I'll go back to import slides. You can see that the PowerPoint is in my drive. I select it and I'll select all three again. Okay, and you can see that they were imported this time without the theme. So most of the formatting came along. Now I don't really need this. This is a title slide and I already have a title slide, so I'm going to delete that. The alternative would have been to simply not import it, just not select it when I was bringing it in. And you'll notice it picked up my color scheme, etc., but it is missing this little graphic here. So what you would need to do in this particular case is go to Layout and select the layout, and that will finish up the process of making it look like these others. Now one difference is that this particular presentation, when I imported from, had bullet points, whereas these don't have bullet points. So again, there might be some minor adjustments that you have to do in order to get them truly synced up. But layout, bullets, things like that would be part of that process. If I go back to my drive, you'll see that the PowerPoint is there. And now this Add to Google Slides is also there. So now I've got two versions of it. I've got my original PowerPoint and I've got this converted version, which it needed to do when I was bringing those slides in. So the difference between doing it directly from the menu and importing it first is that if you import it first, you'll retain the original PowerPoint. Otherwise, you just wind up with the Google Slide version. Now you may have noticed that not all of the formatting came through. The original presentation has this PT Sans font and an orange color, and the headings aren't there. So there are some limitations with importing even after you clean it up. If I was importing an entire presentation, I might just live with the format that came in. I can apply a template to it, but if there are any anomalies, as long as they were consistent. But that's really a personal choice. You can always, go through and make those adjustments. That's the wrong color, but there you go. But they can be time consuming. There it is, PT Sans Narrow. I could use the Format Painter to go through and clean them up all at once. Ooh, excuse me. Turn the Format Painter on. Okay, but a little bit of extra work here that you may or may not want to do. Okay, moving on. There's a section for revision history that can be very, very useful. As you can see, this was edited a number of times today. Just like in Google Docs or Sheets, you can show more revisions, and this is going to get down to the very minor changes you might have made. You can click on any one, and it will return you to that version of the PowerPoint. If that's the version you want, you can restore it right there. Now you can use this tool. Let's just say I want to say File, make a copy of this in this version. So now I've got my copy just the way I want it. And then I can go back to the original and change its version. Okay, so that's how you can preserve your current copy and still get another version if necessary. Language feature just simply does not translate it. It simply indicates what language it's in. So in our case, most of the time it's going to be English. Okay, these features here are different ways to output the document. So you can download it as PowerPoint, as a PDF, as a plain text file, in two separate image formats, either as a JPEG or a PNG. Let's try one of those to see what it looks like. When you open that up, simply a picture of the current slide. If I wanted a picture of this one, let me try it as a PNG this time. I'll have that. If instead I download it as a PowerPoint, I'll get the full presentation, or if I download it as a PDF, I will get the full presentation. We can also publish to the web, which is an interesting option. What that will allow me to do is to get either a hyperlink or some embed code for a web page, and to make this document basically public so that people can see the presentation without having to have specific shares. You can set the length of time between slide transitions, and they give you a number of choices there. I can tell it to start playing or start advancing as soon as it loads. If I leave that unchecked, they'll need to click to get it started. I can have it loop or restart after it finishes. Now I can just simply publish this, and it's going to provide me with this link. And you can see that my presentation is now public on the web. It loads automatically, and every 2 seconds it advances. Okay, once you've published, you can go back, and there'll be an option to stop publishing. So if I do that, it's no longer available. People can no longer reach it with that link. I can email it to collaborators. I can email it as an attachment. In the shared environment, these would probably be the last two things I would do, because I'd rather invite someone if they need to work on it or review it. There's a quick button for some details. We probably won't access too often. There is a page setup, and all this lets you do is change the aspect ratio. So in older computers, they'd be more of a 4:3 ratio, or often desktops are that way. Whereas laptops and the new specifications are for wider as opposed to taller documents. Before we print, which is an option at the bottom, we can go to Print Preview, and there are some options here. You can hide the background for printing, so you get just your text, which can often be useful. You can download this as a PDF, you can print it, and you can print it in a variety of different ways. So right now they're printing as slides, but now I'm going to put 3 slides per page, and it gives a place to take notes. So you can explore the different options here. We'll close the preview. And then the final item is the share. That should look very familiar to it. This is the simple share screen for working with collaborators, the Get Shareable Link button, and the link to the advanced share settings that we use.